So just moving on with the kit here, into the final stages ready for painting. All I've done here is I've sprayed the inside of the undercarriage doors and all of those bits with Tamiya X13 metallic blue, which I don't know if I might not have mixed it properly or something, but it seems quite heavy with the speckles. So I'm not going to worry too much about that for it being the undercarriage, but it's something to sort of check on if I'm going to do a more detailed build in the future using that colour. I've also sprayed the wingtip areas and all the stuff that isn't, which is going to have an interior colour but isn't the cockpit. So that was sprayed that was painted in this metallic blue colour. So that's the fuselage now ready. I've also sprayed some of the interior green colour around here where the cockpit's going to go, so that's the next thing. I'm going to canopy. Sorry, I'm going to attach the canopy. Few little gaps here at the front, which I should be able to fill in with the PVA glue once I start painting it. Hopefully, there you can see how sharp the masks have left the canopy, so that's going to be quite good. So that's no problem. And now we're going to paint the exterior colour over the top of that. So I'm going to fix all this down. And I've got the cowling painted separately here, so I'm going to attach that at the end, so I don't need to mask that off. And I'm just going to touch that up because you can see quite far into the inside through the engine, so I need to spray that just a little bit more. That was with rubber black from Tamiya. Painted the engine with dark iron, and I've also finished the propeller, so that's a metallic colour. I have used MRP white aluminium on that and masked off the rear of the propeller blades that were painted black to try and get rid of the glare. So that's all done. I've got the undercarriage legs as well. So pretty much next step is I'm going to spray rubber black on the wheels. I'm using the templates here from the P-mask set, which is good. So I'm just using the centres there to mark out the hubs. And then we're pretty much done. So then it's just a gloss coat and start applying the decals. Okay, so the decals are now on, and everything's gone together pretty well. I showed you a little bit of the decaling that was being done, and then since then it's been all about sort of cutting into the panel lines and trying to get so there you can actually see the carrier film, how it stands out. So what I've done is I've put quite a heavy coat of gloss in here to try and build it up to the decal, and then I've sanded the decal back with one of the Flory models weathering, buffing sort of paint sanders that he does. So you've got a buffing side and a very soft sort of sanding side, and that took it down. And on this side I started to just about catch where the red decal, just about caught the red decal where it started to show the white through. So I've sanded that about as much as I can. So I think the next step is I'm going to mat this down with Tamiya XF86, so they're flat clear, and that's a bit thicker than the MRP stuff. So I'll probably concentrate on just trying to build these up a little bit to join in, and then that will hide it down. That's all you can really do when you get to this stage, unless you can sort of melt the carrier film off. If you use a very strong setter, it will peel the carrier film off and leave the decal, but I don't really want to get into that for obvious reasons. So that's what I'll try and attempt there. And now we are pretty much just on to weathering. And I've had a look online at some of these Zeros that were this colour and the carrier based in the early period. They're obviously renowned for being very heavily chipped later in the war, but this is a 1942 aircraft, and I think up until 43, I think mid 43, they were very well looked after. They were painted and primed, etc. So the chipping didn't really start until they started to run out of materials. That's as far as I know. I'm not a expert on it, but I just read briefly. That seems to be the case. And when I've looked at these online, I really don't see much weathering at all. I usually like to weather all the aircraft as much as possible, but yeah, I couldn't really find anything of the ones in this colour with massive amounts of weathering. And they're obviously not going to be very dusty, being on a carrier, so I'm not going to do many dust effects. I'm not going to put pigment around the wheels or anything. So I think all I'm going to do is hit it with the Flory Models wash, and what I'm thinking, and I'm going to try here, and then I can obviously go over it and change it. I'm going to mix these two together. I saw Flory himself actually on one of his videos mix these two together to make a kind of grey colour. I think he put the black on first and then came in with the light in patches to kind of weather it. I mean, that would be good if you're doing a sort of grey aircraft, but as far as this is concerned, I think if I just make a grey wash up by mixing the two and hit it with a panel line wash, you can already see looking at it that, you know, you don't need a heavy amount of panel line washing, because you can see the panel lines, you know, they're already there. They're not badly defined really. So if I just hit it with a nice light colour just to go through the decals here, that should bring it all in. And then it's a matte coat, like I said, with the Tamiya, and that will complete the build. So the next bit of video will be finished kit, and I'll just talk through some of the processes that I've learnt during the build, and then we'll have some final reveal pictures. One last thing, there is a couple of touch-ups and detail work I've got to do, so I'm just going to drill out the machine gun holes. So we've got one here, got a pitot tube to go in there, which I'll probably, thinking on it, I should have done this, shouldn't I, because it's not going to be the colour. Well, that's alright, I can brush paint this colour from the pot. I'll probably just put some Albion alloys in there, some fine tubing, whatever sort of fits. I've got most of the grades here, sizes, sorry. And then I'm going to paint the hydraulics in here, just silvers, just that little piece there. So just going to pick that out, not knock off the wingtip like I've just done. So I'm going to glue that back on. Here you go. Now we're in detail, you can see some of the decals. I've got a little bit, I tried to get rid of this, sand that down. That's just a little speck of something that's got on top of the paint and underneath the decal, but I tried sanding it and it just sort of went white and tore the decal, so I'm going to live with that. That's just a part of working in fine scale and using quite a close camera. You don't tend to pick that up when you're actually looking at it. And hopefully here you can see, you know, it's pretty well detailed. Quite nice panel lining. And there's the engine in there. You can probably see that you don't actually, there's not a lot to show for it, so you don't have to worry too much for detailing that. It's quite dark in there. And the propeller blades, nice decals on those. They just sort of finish it off. And I'm not sure if I mentioned, but the rear of the propeller blades is painted black for the anti-glare, so just in case I didn't mention that before. Got to pick out the machine guns here, so I'll do that with a metal colour. And that's about it, really. And here we are finished. So I hope you enjoyed that build. It was very enjoyable for me. It's one of those to get back to modelling again where I've had a little bit of a break. That's what I find these Airfix kits are very good for. Plan to make a 1/72 one each month from now on, so hopefully I'll be able to film each of those, and that will give you plenty of content to watch. I always find it's quite a good way to hone your skills as well. I have worked through a few issues. I had a bit of an issue with the canopy there, and I had some residue from the mask set that I used, so I used a bit of white spirit to clean that off, and then it started going a bit haywire. It didn't quite work, so eventually I got there. I managed to clean up the panes and then actually put some future on there, just brush painted into each one and let it pool around, and that seems to have worked quite well. Trying to be subtle with the weathering as well. Hopefully that sort of come across here. Actually, this one looks a lot better on camera than it does on in person, which is usually the opposite, so that's good. Anyway, and had a bit of problem with decals. Actually, they've been lifting a little bit. You might see there on the side of the fuselage that I've knocked a bit and lost it, and I've tried to touch it in with a bit of red here. Which actually, I mean, it's nowhere near the right red, but for some reason it kind of looks, it just looks okay. It looks like a bit of weathering or something like that. So I'm happy with that. And I like the way the oils have worked, using dry oils on the matte finish there, just to do a bit of fuel staining and some of the gun stains as well. So yeah, all in all, very happy. It's quite nice to have the sort of cleanliness of the build. So you know, keeping the cowling painted separately and then painting the airframe and bringing it all together without getting glue stains and everything. So that was a nice touch as well. I like to do a bit of that, and I'm hoping to improve on that in future builds. So hopefully you like this build, and if you're not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. Have a look through the channel. There's plenty of other content on there and lots of videos to see. And if you like the video, leave it a like and give a comment down below if there's anything you'd like to add. And I'll see you in the next video.